Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun! The show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode, Super Psychic Policeman Chojo. Welcome everybody to Shonen Jumping the Gun. My name is Kermit, your psychic crime stopper, along with my rookie rumbler, Isekai Sensei-Sama Brad. Brad, how you doing?
Reporting for duty, sir.
Oh boy, we're talking about cops today.
Well, we should get this out of the way. ACAB.
ACAB, yep. Okay. Friendly handshake ACAB. Important to do at the top, important to do in the middle, important to do at the end. So we are, as you've heard in the intro, we are talking about Super Psychic Policeman Chojo. New manga that dropped a couple weeks ago in Shonen Jump proper. I've listed the first chapter dropped February 11th, 2024 at time of recording. Oh, wait, I say that later. Suspense, when did we record this? Who knows how many chapters are out? I won't know until later. But I can tell you the first one dropped February 11th. It's a new gag manga. It's about a cop who has psychic powers.
It's very obviously a gag manga.
Yes.
There's no, the first chapter of Mashal, when we read that, it was like,
you could be
oh,
deceived.
yeah, okay, maybe there's some comedy here, but maybe it's action. They sort of it was sort of subtle to start off with, and they ramped it up as it went on. But this one is just out of the gate. This is a gag.
Speaking of which, let's go through my Kermit's patented Super Psychic Speed Run summary. The SSSS? We are told of psychics and all the amazing powers they have, which they use to solve crimes. But the world is a big place. They can't all get important jobs, so some find themselves out on the streets. They call him the Psychic Senior Police Officer. We open on a young woman with some info boxes telling us that when first entering the workforce, you can't always choose who you work with. She's overhearing her coworker spookily and mysteriously peering into somebody's mind. But it turns out it's just the phone password for a drunk old man at the station. The woman is, you're going to have to help me with this name, Nao Ippongi?
That's how I read it.
Okay. A rookie police officer of the West Shinjuku police station covering Japan's famous entertainment district, Kabuki-cho, or Kamurocho if you play Yakuza or Like a Dragon. As soon as I saw, I don't think I ever connected those names before, because I know it was like a setup, but as soon as I saw the sign, I'm like, we're Kamurocho, hell yeah! But they mostly get smaller cases like the one we just saw. They're kind of out on the outskirts, I guess. The drunk old man leaves, saying that Mr. Psychic shouldn't use his powers to look at the lady's panties, which causes Mr. Psychic to say to chase him down and shoot that man. But then he starts reading Nao's mind. Nao thinks about the warning she got from her friends about the psychic and that working there is a bad idea, but not being a cop. She attempts to cut through with her positive attitude, but she was even warned by the chief about how absolutely rotten he is and how much they all hate him, yet he's somehow still employed. He appears, and the chief points out how much of his black hair is white because of how much he abuses his power and admonishes him, but Mr. Psychic essentially implies blackmail and leaves. Cut back to Nao and Chojo, the psychic, and Nao are at the playground as Chojo plays around with a yo-yo with some kids. He uses his power to soup up his yo-yo skills after the kids laugh at him, but this just causes the kids to get pissed and leave. Nao admonishes him, get used to this, and he says how dead-end this office is and how hard she's going to have to work to earn some glory and escape from it. She tries to make a connection with him, and he just reads all of her backstory from her mind.
Mm-hmm.
The most important fact being that she comes from a judo background. She goads him into talking about his background, and he has a hard time doing it and gives up saying she probably knows from what everybody has already told her about him. Nao grew up in a troubled area and used her judo skills to just submit everybody, including a whole pile of Yakuza she threw. Said loan shark Yakuza pops back up to accost them, saying they're going to take her family dojo and turn it into a weed farm, which fires up now. Chojo calms her down, saying just let the Yakuza act tough, and now talks about why she became a police officer, to help her protect her family and home, and that it's a selfish reason. Chojo is surprisingly understanding about this desire and comforts her about it. Cut to later, and now is cleaning said dojo, wondering about Chojo, Dojo Tojo. But oh no, the Yakuza show up, a whole gang of them. She readies to toss them out, but a wrecking ball bursts through the wall.
It came in like a wrecking ball.
It did indeed come in like a wrecking ball. They stand tall, saying they can't be Yakuza if they'd get pushed around that easily. A hero approaches who can save the day, and it's just the drunk from earlier who the Yakuza's bully. But lo, another hero approaches. It's Chojo arriving on the scene into a cloud of hatred for himself. Chojo uses his powers to pick up the wrecking ball and does yo-yo tricks with it to impress the kids, then uses it to wreck all the Yakuza. Turns out he has a little bit of heart after all. Now continues to wonder what made Chojo become a police officer, and the two share a nice moment of genuine understanding before Chojo says he told the higher-ups that now solved the problem, and she should be able to transfer from the glory from that. The chief shows up and imagines now body slamming the wrecking ball crane into the Yakuza, as he confirms she's the sole victor of beating the Yakuza. He freaks out over her supposed incredible gorilla strength and leaves. This gives now a general bad reputation as a massive gorilla who can throw anything. The chapter ends with now judo throwing Chojo. I really hate that anytime a woman is strong in anime and manga, they are just gorillas.
Yeah.
And I'm really sick of it. At least pick some other animals. Like, A, don't do that. But B, pick other animals at least.
I will say it's not always women, so it's not 100% sexist. But it is most of the time.
But it's usually used as an insult. Like, Gory Gorilla, he's fine. That's a moniker.
Well,
but
that's his actual name.
There's multiple times I've seen a character call a woman a gorilla, at least in the localization. It seems pretty consistent across things.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm sick of this, guys. Like, pick something new, or Japanese people get more creative and stop banking on strong women. Other thing I hate is cops, but I think that's already been stated, just to be clear.
We probably should be clear that the Japanese police system is not as outwardly awful as the United States police system.
It's still awful, but it's awful in a different flavor.
Yeah,
Let's not throw stones.
They aren't murdering people in the street. They're just murdering people through the legal system.
Yeah. Phoenix Wright exists because the Japanese legal system is really effed up, which is coming from Americans, that says a lot. So I guess of that chat, when I'm coming into this where I'm already not fond of police, and then this is a gag manga where the main guy just sucks.
They definitely, I don't know. Like, that's the kind of like characterization that I actually like. That whole sort of like, oh, I'm gruff and, off-putting and everything, but I'm secretly a good guy and I'm going to help people out kind of thing.
I was thinking about it today when going over the summary earlier, that it's like if they were just like neighborhood problem solvers and not like this is a system. Again, I'm coming into this with probably too much baggage, and that kind of soured my grapes. And future vision, I've kind of chilled out on it and just went, it's a freaking gag manga, whatever. But like, thinking back on it now, like the fires raise up a little bit more, even if this first chapter, like I remember being very vehemently against it when I first read it, and now it's just like, it's whatever.
Yeah. I definitely, I didn't come into it negatively just because they're cops. That's not something that I really do with media. I view everything.
You're blessed and or cursed with that, and I'm also blessed and or cursed with my thing of bringing it in, depending on your personal viewpoint,
right,
and the particular series being covered.
So I will say, like, I think just in general, I thought it was all right. Like, it wasn't groundbreaking. I wasn't having a laugh on every single page, which is sort of what I want out of a gag manga. So it definitely isn't like, oh, this was amazing. But I wouldn't say it was bad.
It's not, this is so hard to separate myself from it. It's not terrible, I mean, when you're coming in with an axe to grind, it's harder to laugh. You're kind of expecting more, and it's never going to be able to pay that out unless it's like the most immaculate for you thing that has ever been. I mean, admittedly, I'm working from now reading our beloved Roboco. I now read that week to week. And I have a good time with it, but I also now have, like, I have a sense of what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And for this one, especially, like, the first chapter, like, I don't know if there's going to be any good first chapter of a gag manga where you're figuring out what its deal is what's a bit and what's setting things up.
That was when I got to the end, I sort of went, wait, it's over? Because, you know, I'm against these first chapters that just lay absolutely everything out and basically point you the direction that they're going and just go, we're going over there. Like there's too much, you know?
Yeah.
There's also times when there's too little. And this first chapter almost felt like a one shot to me, where it's just like, okay, they wrapped everything up. They introduced the characters. They had a bit of conflict, and they wrapped everything up at the end. Like, where are you going with
It's a gag manga. That's how gag mangas go. We've seen, like, we're going off Roboco. Like, that's something interesting for me is this is my first starting off on a gag manga in Jump.
Yeah, I don't think I've really consumed many gag manga before, and like,
because a lot of, I mean, even before, like, we get everything now for Jump proper. Everything gets localized from chapter 1, but like gag stuff, A, doesn't usually get localized, and B, it's because it's hard to localize comedy. There's so much nuance, more so than even any other storytelling. It's like, it's why I love the Bobobo dub, because so much of the comedy is something entirely new grown off of the back of the thing. It didn't get localized in the normal sense, but it's still funny. If that's what your heart of localization is, it has a sense of humor that is specific to itself. But like, what makes Bobobo's dub funny is not necessarily what makes the original Japanese funny, but that's not in a way that can capture it. I mean, we've talked about localization a lot, where it's like, oh, in a sort of passing thing of like, oh, taking the time to explain a bit of wordplay somewhere, but it's like, you can't do that for a gag manga because explaining a joke isn't funny. The whole point is if you do that, except in certain cases, obviously, but like, if your entire book is, well, this is funny because it's based off of this Japanese wordplay that you don't know because you don't speak Japanese, so you have to go, it's that kind of, yes, that's clever, and not like, oh, ha 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 ha.
It's why,
which is what you want from a gag manga.
Cypher Academy can't be properly
That's why Cypher Academy doesn't work, because, which maybe we'll probably get to someday, is because, I mean, that one's not comedy, but it's these incredibly complex puzzles where it's just like, I don't care if you're the most godlike localizer on planet Earth. There is no way, without completely making a new puzzle from scratch, that this is ever going to be anything more than, yes, that's clever. Not like, wow, that was a real head scratch. Like, to
you literally
like,
have to teach the
feel
audience
proper
Japanese
emotion
first.
and not just that very academic. Yes, of course.
So yeah, with that said,
I'm getting distracted.
I think that like I'm not going to be able to give the most nuanced opinion about this first chapter.
That's the
because
whole point of the show, my friend.
Realistically, my only other gag manga that I've like read thoroughly is Mashal, and Mashal definitely skirts the line of like Shonen Battler gag manga.
Yeah, because it moves. Like, I mean, again, we're judging from Roboco, where it's like technically things get added to Roboco's stew pot, but like every chapter is we've made a new conflict for the characters to deal with. I would say like Spy Family is more akin to this than Mashal.
Maybe.
And even still, like, because it's like, we're doing this, and, more complicated than that, obviously, but, like, it's definitely that, I think we just don't have something to base this off as much.
I would recommend, as just a standalone chapter, this would be good to recommend to someone who, like, has bronchitis or something, so they can't laugh very much. They want to chuckle, but they can't like guffaw.
They can't guffaw.
It would hurt, and so send them this
not funny thing.
And it's fun. It's
vaguely funny.
It'll give you a chuckle.
It'll give you a chuckle, a sensible chuckle. I'm trying to remember the segment we were talking about when there's one that I don't like, where I have to say something good about it and you have to say something not good about it.
Oh yeah, I have that written down here somewhere. We'll get to that in a second.
Is it the quick draw?
Well, it's after that.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're right.
I did want to touch on the art because
that was going to be my good thing. The art's immaculate. I love the art.
Well, it's interesting because I don't quite like this style, but it strikes me. I was reading something the other day. Someone was talking about where they were like, I hate how all of the new manga look like just still anime panels, as in like people are drawing anime instead of manga.
They're drawing literally storyboards instead of conceptually storyboards.
And I was reading this one and I went, this looks like an anime. Like the style
it's very shiny.
Yeah.
And,
very polished and like precise inking, and like the character models are smooth.
It feels like somebody who's been doing this for a while, especially when a lot of our newer stuff is newer mangaka, so sometimes their art isn't always the most consistent or clean.
So I can say, like, technically speaking, the art is very good.
Yeah.
It's not particularly something I'm really into, but then also I don't care as much about the art as a lot of people.
Yeah,
so
it is my style, which is why I was frustrated that the topic wasn't as something up my alley, because I really liked the look of it. It had a really fun, clean, cartoony look that other things don't really have right now.
Honestly, if they stick with sort of like the fixing small town problems kind of thing, I could be on board with that, of just like week to week, it's just a new thing every week and just a funny situation happens.
I think when you can spend less time on the little moments and setting things up and more on just we're doing a stupid, silly gag, it is better for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, should we move on then?
We should move on. So now we are entering. Oh wait, I mean, I guess we've already said what do we think will happen? Where do we think it would go? I mean, I think it's just
I don't know.
It's
you
a
can't
gag
do
manga.
that.
I know that's the fun thing of the gag manga. They solve some more problems. We learn more about Chojo's past at some point.
There's literally not enough information in this chapter,
because there wouldn't be,
because there's absolutely no overarching story here.
Make up in the way that we learned about more characters in Roboco. Just come up with a character who will show up, an archetype. I wonder if after a while they will get a third police person.
I mean, it would make sense to sort of build up more recurring characters that are not just the silly side character. Because if the drunk guy keeps showing up, that's just going to be like a recurring gag.
Yeah.
But you need additional characters.
Like that Yakuza guy will probably show up. Like there'll probably be people they're dealing with that'll show back. Like that's just how these work. It's just like, oh, who's showing up this week? So I think, as much as I didn't like it at the moment, now that I've Future Vision seen some more of them, it's settled in of just like, okay, my axe to grind has been set down, and it's not incredible, but like I'm still keeping up with it for now. But it's not like, and it's gotten more chuckles out of me now that it can just be stupider. Like that's the joy of it, and sometimes it's better and sometimes it's not. But that's too much Future Vision for this show. So, but I think just we've never had a gag manga that we started this early. So, but yeah, with that out of the way, we enter the flop pool segment, which I feel like should get a new name now that we've renamed some other things. But, we'll think about it later. Who knows when this episode comes out?
We might have already renamed it.
We might have already renamed it by the time you hear this, depending on how things get released. Who knows? So as always, though, now, I'm going to throw it to Truxan to tell you the vote choices. So Truxan, take it away. Hey everybody, it's me. It's Truxan, your friendly neighborhood Truxan. It's Truxan's Will Range. So we're at the bottom. We got Dead Walking, Dead in 20 chapters or less, an early grave, like Do Retry or Candy Flurry. Next up from that, we got a flop, Granted a stay of execution, under 50 chapters, like a Fabricant 100, or a Doran Dororan, whatever that is. Next up is It'll Live, hangs on just past flop zone, sub 120 chapters, like PPPPPP, or Magu-chan. Then we got Solid, series that does well but hasn't reached its true popularity, like an Akane Panache or Undead Unluck. Can get an anime. Then we got the hit, truly popular with an anime and hundreds of chapters, like a Black Clover or an Assassination Classroom. And finally, oh my gosh, the Supernova, industry shaker and shaper. Readers want to be with them, other manga want to be like them. like a demon slayer Jujutsu Kaisen. And that's Truxan's Rules of the Range. Back to you. Thanks, Truxan. So with that, Brad, Isekai Sensei-Sama Brad.
Oh, where do I want to put this? I mean, I don't think it's going to take off, but I also feel like it'll keep going for a while. It doesn't feel like the kind of thing that they'll cancel, just because it's not amazing week to week. I feel like it'll live solidly in the lower middle of the rankings. So I think I'll have to go with solid then. That feels like the area where it'll sort of ride the line for a long time. Like it won't dip down low enough that we'll go, oh, is it going to get canceled? But it also won't be like, oh my God, it's so popular, everybody's talking about it.
I mean, I guess we could say that a Roboco that we only talk about because we saw we took our bump of it every week for a while, and I know it's getting a movie somehow, which I continue to be baffled by.
Which will be longer than the entirety of the anime season.
By a magnitude. It's wild to me. I think at the time I said flop. I hold by that. My opinion on it's mellowed because I did originally put down for my feeling of please die so I can spit on your grave, and I've kind of mellowed out to meh, it's fine. It's just so, if I'm not coming in with my axe prepped and ready because of the world that we live in today, it's just like, yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. I'll get a sensible chuckle or two out of it. I like the art.
Is that your prediction or is that your feeling?
My prediction is flop. My feeling now is meh, it's fine. But at the time when I only had read the first one was please die so I can spit on your grave. What's your feeling? You said
I said solid.
Solid. That's your vote. What's your feeling on it?
I think my feeling is the same. I think I'm pretty much matched on those two things at this point.
Okay.
Where it's like
So you'd say good? Do you think it's good?
I think you can say good. Like,
okay.
Like,
don't make me pull your teeth too hard.
It might be a little below good, but I don't know what the word to use for that would be.
Yeah, it's called meh. It's fine.
I don't even think it's that low.
Okay. So I feel like this is the moment to finally trigger the thing we talked about earlier that remember the name of, which is high noon. So because this is one I don't like and one Brad is at least defending. You have to say one bad thing about it, and I have to say one good thing. So say
you go first.
I got to say it earlier. I think the art is incredible. I love it. It's clean. It's solid. It looks different than other things. I love the thick, black, inky outlines of stuff. Designs, whatever, but like just the look of everything is sterling. Clearly done by a very good artist.
Okay, I have to say something bad about it.
You got to say something bad about it. It's high noon.
There's too much of it where nothing fun was happening.
Thank you. You know, a thing that's supposed to be fun?
It was like 57 pages or something, and I would say there was a thing to laugh about on less than half of those pages.
That's rough. That's rough, son.
Which, who knows, maybe the shorter chapters from here on out will be much punchier. But I didn't read those. So.
I mean, maybe it's the thing of the gag manga that's not supposed to be 50 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, the Roboco episodes were like 4 minutes, if that. So that's the format they're better by, I guess. I don't know.
Do you know how hard that was for me?
That's why we have this segment, bud.
I guess that means you win this duel.
I win this duel. If somebody has to win high noon. Do the big, whatever that Wild West arcade FMV game is.
Oh, yeah. I think, though, the sound you just did, that was from Street Fighter, though, right?
Yeah, I do the Street Fighter getting knocked out echo noise. So I guess our final thing before we get to the final piece of information is, Brad, if not for our particular death cult, would you keep reading this of your own volition?
Yes, with a caveat.
Oh,
okay. This is important. The caveat is if I had come to this and there were like 30 chapters already, I wouldn't read it.
That's big for you. We're making progress that you would say that, because it says you wouldn't.
I would have read the first chapter. I would have seen 29 more chapters, and I would have went, eh.
I mean, technically, yes, me too.
I might put it on the backlog.
Yep,
you know, like
you can't say no. You can just say later.
It's not bad enough for me to outright say this. I'm not going to read it. But it falls into the realm of I'm going to read this because there's only how many chapters are out right now?
Yeah. Speaking of which, there is only at point of recording, there is only 3 chapters of this out right now.
So because of that, it's going to be easy for me to keep up.
Yeah.
And week to week, one at a time, not a big deal.
Correct. Agreed.
But when there's something that I'm not hooked on and there's a huge chunk of chapters, it pokes me in my procrastination spot and makes me go, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, admittedly, when I started reading Roboco, I tried to go from the start, and I'm like, I can't do this. I keep up with it I keep up with the new stuff week by week, and I will probably do that for this for a little while longer.
See, I should probably
But I agree
do
with your
something
thing
like
is that there was like, if I read that first chapter and saw that there was 30 chapters and had no hook to the future, I would be out. But for now I'm giving it a little bit more time to cook.
I should read stuff like a chapter at a time.
Yeah. Pretend it's weekly even if it's not.
Well, I could even read a chapter every day, but because there's a whole bunch of them, my sort of like, it's not OCD, but that kind of thing on the one side of my brain is going, you have to read all of these. And then the other side of my brain, the procrastination side, is going, that's a lot. I don't think I want to do that.
Just gotta keep chopping at it. I started my reread of One Piece almost a year ago, and I'm just about towards the end of Dressrosa now. Admittedly, there was a lot of breaks in there, and I'm on a break again, but like...
We were on a break.
But yeah.
Anything else?
No, that has been Super Psychic Policeman Chojo. A gag manga, I guess.
At least
a
half
gag
of
manga. Not! Thank you, everybody, for listening. Again, this has been Super Psychic Policeman Chojo. And Brad, what do we got going on?
Well, of course, as always, we want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. They've got a lot of cool stuff you can't get outside Japan. So check the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off your first order, which also helps us out. And you can let us know what you think on social media, which you can find links for on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You can also leave comments about the podcast episodes and also find other posts and reviews. We've got a Discord where you can come chat with us. And don't forget to check out our Patreon. Supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series to cover on heroin addiction, as well as getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And we'd love to hear what perks you'd like. And of course, we got to shout out our patrons. First off, at our Reincarnator tier, we have Cake Dwarf and Moon. Next, at our Merchant tier, we've got Kill Hour. And last but certainly not least, at our Commoner tier, we've got Rena. So thanks to our patrons.
Well, thank you, Brad, and thank you, everybody, again for listening. And make sure you listen to the Mainline podcast. That time I got reincarnated in the same world as an anime podcaster. Oh, shit, it's the police! Brad, hit the deck! Ah! Super Psychic Policeman Chojo! I don't know what that voice was, but it was fun.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
On today's episode,
Super Psychic Policeman Chojo! Yeah!
On today's episode, Super Psychic Policeman Chojo! I don't know what that was. Where did we write that down?
I don't think we did. I think we just talked about it enough times that we thought we had a name for it.
High Noon.
Yeah, High Noon. You're right. You're right. I'll declare High Noon after we finish this thought
After
about
the
where it
quick
can
draw.
go.
Yeah.
Isekai Sensei-Sama doesn't mute his watch phone, Brad. Okay, you gotta remember how to land this plane because you didn't freaking write it at the bottom of the thing.
I wonder why I didn't.
You had the original one. You had it. I think you trusted me, and you shouldn't have done that because my brain goes blank in between these things. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. That's been Super Psychic Policeman Chojo, and with that out of the way, Brad, plug me up. Oof, no, bad word choice.
Yeah, try that again.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. That has been Super Psychic Cerebrum Cropo. I only had one good in me, and I can't do it again. I can do it again. Just I need to wait for you to stop. Take your time.
Hold on, let me get.
Also, motherfucker, you put your soda right in front of the timer, so I can't see what the timer says.
I was moving us along.
I know, but if you're gonna point it at me, at least let me read it. Perfect. Thank you.